Hello, 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 hello. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are watching us from. Welcome to the maiden edition of SEDAT HR Digest. Wow, if you are here this moment, just drop your name and where you are watching us from in the comments section and know that you are part of the making of history. Congratulations. Wow, it's good to have you here. As we have been advertising, the maiden edition, we are looking at how we can hire the right people for the right jobs in an organization. And we are privileged this evening or afternoon to be hosting one of Ghana's best HR professionals. She is the HR manager of NUTAKOR Limited. VERA, YAA, MANSA, NUTAKOR is a very great HR person. She has over 11 years of experience in the practice of HR, and her experience span across industries. So she's worked in the mining industry, she's worked in the construction industry, she's worked in the telecommunications industry, religious group, non-governmental, and now in the real estate development industry. Vera holds an MBA in HR from Central University, and then he also has sociology or law first degree in KNUST and a certificate from Chairman South Africa on partisan grading system. If we talk of HR and the practice of it, Vera is the right person to have this conversation with. And so if you are here, help me in welcoming Vera. But before Vera joins us, let me assure you that we are going to have a 30 minutes conversation that will border on recruitment and selection mainly. And HR SEDAT Consult, HR Digest will come your way every Sunday from 4 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. And we'll discuss various issues in HR. So we are going to really digest the issues of HR and bring the issues to bear, and then see how we can advance the course of HR. If you're an HR professional, Sundays, this is the place to be. If you are an employer, this is the place to be. If you're a learning HR person or a graduate of HR or a student of HR, this is the place to be. So help me welcome Vera to the studio right now. Hello, Vera.
Hello.
Wow.
Hello, Patricia.
Good to have you.
Thank you.
I love your red. Wear red, right?
Means we are serious today. We want to know how we can move our organizations forward. Yes, through the right talents, right? So,
Great.
Good evening, good morning, good day to all your listeners. And I'm happy to be here. Yes.
Thank you, Vera. We are excited to have you. We know your worth when it comes to HR, and we know how experienced you are. And so we know that we'll have a great conversation. Let me start by bringing out what I shared in the course of publicizing this program, a quote that I shared, which for me very much sums up the importance of recruitment and selection in the practice of HR or for every organization, right? So just a minute, let me just grab the quote now. In the meantime, please let us see. Wow, Alice Dalkon, you are welcome. Oh, you're watching us from Takrady. It's good to have you here. Welcome, 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 Alice. Ahmad Dalkon, it's great to have you here. Please, let's see your name, where you are watching us from in the comments section. And we really acknowledge that. So Vera, let me first of all ask you, why is this topic giving very important? Why should we have a discussion? Why should we spend 30 minutes discussing this very particular hiring the right way? Right. Before, during, and after? Why is it important for us to spend time discussing this topic?
Great. So, like you rightly introduced the topic, You said hiring the wrong people is the fastest way to undermine, and sustain an organization. Now, I always refer to the recruitment process as the birth canal, as the process by which the employees are birthed or the human resource are birthed into an organization. And we all know what it means to have a birth go wrong. If a birth goes wrong, you either lose the baby, you might even lose the mother, which in this case will be the company, and you can also have the child have some challenges. So largely, the recruitment process is a very important process which can actually undermine productivity, undermine every kind of activity in the organization. So one well-known CEO once said that he is convinced that there is nothing they do that is more important than hiring and developing people, and because at the end of the day, they will bet on the people and not the strategies. So recruitment is very critical for any organization to survive and thrive. More importantly, because your human resource are your competitive edge. They are the people that will move your processes. They are the people that will man your processes. And so if you get it wrong, then it means that you're not going to be in competitive advantage with your compatriots. Yeah. So that is what I have to say on that.
Wow, awesome. Thank you. Let me also take the opportunity to welcome David Nano all the way from India. Thank you, David, for
Wow.
joining us. We have Hetty from Accra. We have Ama Sama from Kumasi. We have Kojo Dankwa Amponsa from Accra. Glyco, thank you, Kojo, for joining. We have Samuel watching us all the way from Boga. Thank you so much for joining us. Great. So, Vera, like you said, hiring the wrong people is the fastest way to undermine a sustainable business, by Kevin Donaldson. Do you
That's
share
right.
this view? And if you do, why so?
Absolutely. And having been in the practice for some time, what I realize is that attracting the wrong talent into an organization is the fastest route to destroy whatever vision or mission that you had to achieve at the end of the day. So that when I started initially, I said that that is the birth canal. So if you get it wrong, it's like putting a square peg in a round hole, and obviously that is not what you wanted to achieve. And so whatever you set out to achieve as an organization, it is very likely that you'll be cutting yourself short or not achieving it at all. So getting the right talent to get to on your team is very critical, and it's something that you don't do just anyhow. Recruitment and selection as it stands is actually an aspect of talent acquisition. So talent acquisition is more of a strategic role, which is ongoing. But recruitment is an aspect of it which actually allows you to fill a position that becomes necessary or that becomes vacant. So it is very critical that we are very intentional and strategic about attracting the right talent into the organization. Yes.
Awesome.
So
So then it means that we cannot just bring people in without following a certain process or procedure. So let's look at, before we bring in somebody, before we hire somebody, what must we do? Because we want to get it right. We want to make sure that we don't have people who have the skills for other roles put in different roles. So we want to get it right. Round pegs in round holes, square pegs in square holes, right? So what should we do
yes, yes,
before?
square pegs and round
What should
holes.
we
Yes.
do before we hire somebody, please? And let me also take the opportunity to welcome Jemima all the way from the US. Thank you for joining us, Jemima. We are grateful that you are here. Kletos is from Kokobo. Thank you, Kletos, for joining us. Thank you all. Zachary, thank you for joining us. Henrietta, thank you for joining us. Vera, can you go on?
Right. So, in order to be able to attract the right talent, usually you should have first identified a need. So, the need can come across as a result of a new operational introduction. It could also come out, about as a result of a vacancy, an exit. And so, either way, the processes are similar. Now, you want to attract the right person. The most important thing is having had as an HR person, you don't work in isolation. You work with other line managers and line directors to be able to fill this position. you identify the need. The most important step after that is to make sure that you have a JD or a job profile for that role. Now, most of the time when it is a replacement, people are tempted to use an old JD or whatever the previous person occupying the role was using. It is advisable that that is not done, even if it is a replacement. It is important that you revise whatever the JD is to suit the current situation you are in.
Okay.
Currently. And so it is important that you revise the JD. So once you've got the JD, you've got all your approvals in place, then the next step is to have your advertisement based on the JD out there. And it is critical that in your JD, some of the things that you should have in there will be the job title, reporting line, the department, the job descriptions and responsibilities, the kind of skills and knowledge that you require of the candidate. You're also looking at the values that you expect the candidate to bring and the results that you expect that particular role to deliver on, so that it is very clear with you going out there to seek the talent and the talent that is seeking to join you, so that you don't have too many people who are not qualified or who are not have the skills that you need applying to those jobs. And by so doing, if you are a company that has the applicant tracking system, is very helpful. It's very helpful to sift all those people that you wouldn't need, the talent that you wouldn't need to deal with at the point of shortlisting. Once you have placed your ad, usually as part of the ad, you would have put in your deadlines. So you proceed to shortlisting your candidates. And with your shortlist, you should also have a template that you would use, because with it, you are going to determine the kind of qualities you are looking out for, and you're going to rate each one of them to help you to shortlist. Then from the shortlisting point, you're going to arrange interviews. So those are the processes. During the interviews, you definitely will set up a panel with the hiring department or all necessary persons. Some organizations take it upon themselves, and even the CEO makes it a point to interview every single hire. We know it is not possible for every kind of organization or every kind of institution, and so that is not mandatory. But as much as possible, make sure you have all the important persons on the panel to interview this candidate. Once that interview is done, sometimes interviews are done in many ways. You could actually do a phone screening to start with. You could also do an assessment or a test to start with, just to sift further shortlisting. You could then go ahead to do virtual or in-house. These days, with all the changes that have gone around the globe, a lot of virtual interviews are done. So you might take advantage of that to do a first virtual, and then you can have the candidates come in-house for a physical, and then you can eventually decide on that based on the panel agreement. Now, once that is done, you have selected, that is where we get into the selection. A candidate has been selected. What do you do with that candidate? You have to do background checks. Some organizations, in fact, most of the organizations, when you look at the Labor Act, it actually endangers you to put the candidate through a medical check. And that is to safeguard you as the employer as well, because you need to know the state and the health of the employee as they come in, so as not to endanger their lives and also put the organization in a bad light and also cause financial loss and all of that. So it's important that background checks, medical checks, and then, of course, reference checks are also done. So you contact their references to know what their attitude is more like. So likely that is it. Now,
Okay.
the candidate comes
Thank you,
into
Vera.
the company. What is the next thing?
So just a moment,
Okay,
just for
maybe
me
I'll pause
to
here. I think, yes.
yes, let me bring us some of the. Okay, so you said that organizations should not just decide to hire people and bring the people in without doing certain things. And you said that first of all, there should be a need. There should be a need, and
Yes.
the need can come about as a result of maybe expansion, or as a result of a vacancy that has been created because somebody has left, or the company has, okay, let's say somebody has exited, whether the person left voluntarily or no. And then
Yeah.
I think we should look at the point where we have the job profile. How should
Right.
organizations ensure that, because the job profile will determine what kind of people you are bringing in, and it's before you do even the shortlisting. So what should be the details of the job profile, or what sometimes we call the JD, like you mentioned, the job description, but I prefer the job profile, and then the person specification. So two things you mentioned, the job profile, well, that has to do with what the job entails, who will best fit the job, will look at the person specification. So please, can we dwell a little bit more on that before we move on to the next thing? We want to make sure that, because if we get this right, then it means that the advert
I
that
don't know
goes
if I'm
out to be
alone, but
right.
your line is breaking badly.
Okay. Is anybody else hearing me or breaking lines? If you are hearing me clearly, can they drop a message on the chat for me before I go on? Am I
And
clear
maybe
to
we can
everybody
go
else?
on. That's fine.
Okay. All right. So we like I'm saying, if we get this right, it means that what goes out to be right, and then it also means that the application that we receive might be right. Thank you, Cletus. Cletus says very clear. Thank you. Right. So Vera, can you go ahead and do that for me? Dwelling more on the job profile and person specification.
Right. Thank you, Patricia. So, to attract the right candidate means that you need to be clearly communicating so they know exactly what they are coming into. Sometimes we take it for granted, but people come into jobs and they get the cultural shock because what they saw out there, what they come in to see becomes very different. So it is by way of communicating through the job profile or job description that minimizes this impact. The job profile should include job title, should include location of the job, should include relationship, the reporting relationship. It also includes the internal relationships. So how will that job be connecting with other departments and other line managers? It's important. It gives you the summary of what the job is expected to achieve. It's important. Now you go step by step and clearly indicate the job responsibilities and duties, exactly what is expected of the role in as much detail as you possibly can, so that if the person does not have any of those skills or abilities, at least they would not apply for that time. Yes. Now,
Okay. Awesome.
a
Awesome.
moment, please. I'm sorry.
Yes,
I mean,
that is fine. So okay. So great. What then I'm picking from here is that we should spend time in developing or crafting a job profile so that we know exactly. That is why when you see some adverts, you see that, okay, for example, the job requires somebody to have strong analytical skills. The job requires somebody to have um, maybe strong presentation skills and all that. It's not something that is put in the advert for the sake of it. It is that which the organization thinks if a person that is coming to occupy the role should have in order to be successful on the job. And so they put this out there and ensure that people who have these skills and these qualifications come in. For example, if you're recruiting somebody for a front desk office, for example, one of the things you will look at is you want somebody who has a pleasant personality, right? Somebody who can easily smile. No, some people, it's difficult for them to smile. So, for example, if you have this, and even the process of selecting, you realize that this person comes for the interview and you can't get this person to smile. Throughout the interview, the person has squeezed her face or his face. It's a red flag for you. You should try and find out if the person naturally can smile. Otherwise, you have people just being chased away by just the face of the person. So thank you, Vera,
that's right.
for
Absolutely. Yes.
right. So let's look at once you have gone through the process. I know that 30 minutes is not enough for us to cover everything, but at least you've been able to talk about the basics, have a need, have your job profile, have a person specification, do your advert based on the job profile, and then do your shortlisting, your selection, and all that. Now, once we are done with the selection process. The person has been selected. You have done the background checks, and please, it's important to do your background checks. Sometimes people come with all sorts of stories, but they have worked elsewhere. Find out how their attitude, mostly is about attitude. Sometimes people are good at what they do, but attitude is very, very bad. So you want to look at that. What should we do after we have selected the person? Briefly, then I will open up for one or two comments or questions.
Okay, so you have selected the person. Like I was saying before, we went on. It's more the Labor Act enjoins you to do medical checks, especially for first entrants. So it is important that you do that medical check and do all of the background checks. Now, you are going to onboard the employee. And as part of the onboarding process, it's orientation. Research has shown that most organizations, as a way of best practice, would have someone go through an orientation for about a week to a month, or sometimes even 3 months. And so that happens. As part of the orientation, you're going to take the person through the culture of the organization. You're going to make the person know the environment, where they can find what they can do, at during lunchtime, where they have to ease themselves. All of that has to be shown the person. Don't assume that people will easily find that. You are going to introduce the person to the organization. So mostly you do that physically and also by email, or if you have a portal by which you announce those, you are going to do that so that people know that we have ABC joining us from this time in this capacity, and so on and so forth. So you're going to go through, and then you can put them in a classroom setting. These days we still go virtual, so you can do that virtual, but I prefer the in-person, at least for the first few days, so the person has that feel of acceptance. It imputes some level of confidence, and the person feels well integrated into the family. So you introduce them to their colleagues, and then you take them through the company culture, the vision, the mission. You give them the welcome address from the top, and so on and so forth. So that is for orientation. Now, onboarding lasts much longer, and it lasts for at least 3 months to a whole year most times, because it's an ongoing thing. And depending on the caliber of person you are bringing in, or the category of person you are bringing in, sometimes you'll have to touch almost all departments to be able to understand exactly how the business is. Let's take, for instance, you are bringing in a sales and marketing director. To be able to sell the product effectively, he needs to understand the business through and through. He needs to understand. Even with an HR person, you need to do that. Because if you don't go through the process properly, if you do not get integrated in properly, you're going to struggle to find your feet. You'll not understand, even to give advice, even to direct on what the right policies are, you will struggle. And so it is important that people who are brought in afresh, new hires, are taken through onboarding, which includes orientation. Yes. And most organizations do it for shorter, but it should take some time. We should invest some time.
Of course. No matter how talented the person is or how skilled the person is, the person needs to understand the culture of the organization.
Absolutely.
And it happens, it can't just, and you see, sometimes people just recruit, or organizations hire people, and then they just get there and they're supposed to do their work without the proper onboarding. And I think it's very important that we make time to do that. So we'll go on a short break, and then I will come out with my last question, and we have one or two comments or questions from our participants, and then we'll call it a day. But
Patricia, before we go, I just want to say that sometimes when the onboarding is not done properly, that is where we have a high turnover. Retention becomes an issue. So it is very important. Onboarding is very, very important, yes, and affects productivity as well.
Awesome. So maybe we should have one episode dedicated to onboarding, and then also one dedicated to interviewing candidates, make sure that you get the best fit.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we go on a short break. We'll come back, and then Elizabeth has a comment or a question. We'll look at it. All right. So please don't go anywhere. We'll be back very soon. right, welcome back. Let me take the opportunity to introduce the upcoming training in performance management from the 17th to the 18th of November. If you have not registered, please register and be part of this. You will love it. You will love it. You will love it. All right, thank you. Right, Elizabeth says, I think onboarding is the same as orientation. One is British and the other is American. All right, noted. So, Vera, my last question, and then please, if you have a question, please drop it in the comment. We'll take two because of time. We are done on time, so we'll take just two, and then we are good to go. So, if the organization is looking for the right fit, what you are saying that we should go through all these processes to make sure that we get the right fit, and the right fit in terms of culture, the right fit in terms of the
attitude,
attitude, the right fit in terms of the job itself. So can the person do the job? Can the person fit into the culture? Is the person passionate enough for the role? So what would be your final comments when it comes to getting it right and getting the right person for the right job?
Right. To get it right, the first thing to do is to have a policy that guides your recruitment selection. You need to have a policy and a procedure. So I actually wanted to show something, if I can be aided to show that. So to show that having a process flow, a flow chart in terms of how you want your recruitment selection to go is very critical, so that you don't miss out on anything. Most of the time, we want to recruit from in-house. But if you have your process flow, it guides you at what point to stop looking in and at what point to look out and get the right candidates to come out. So I would advise that as much as possible, we develop a policy and a procedure to guide the process. That is it.
Awesome. If you will share the process flow with the participants and those on the WhatsApp group. If not joined the WhatsApp group yet, admin will contact you. Just be on the group. We'll share that information with the participants in that group. Right. So the link to the registration has also been posted in the comment section. Please click on it and register for upcoming training on performance management. Samuel, okay, Cletus is asking, can perception affect the choice of the right candidate? And if yes, how can we avert it? Vera, can perception affect the choice of the right candidate? And if yes, how can we avert it?
Right, perception definitely can affect the choice
let me
of the
just
right
add this
candidate.
one. Sorry, let me just add this one so that you can just do the two. So someone says, what should be the length of time for background checks? What should be the length of time for background checks?
Okay, so usually
perception and the length of time for background check.
Right, let me just attack the the length of time. Okay. Right, so with background checks, usually you have a probation period. So you don't want the candidate to have finished their probation period before you're getting feedback. So within that probation period, you should be able to push to get your background checks in place, because at the end of the probation period or close to the end, you have to make a decision on the candidate. And so some of these checks will help you make that decision before the end of the probation period. So it's important that we get it. If your probation period is 3 months or 6 months, which is the usual thing, then you should get it before the 6 months is due. Yes. In terms of perception, yes, the way to manage that is mainly from the panel's point of view. It means that your panel should be trained to not have those biases, because those are biases that can affect the selection process. So you need to train your panel or your line managers to know what to do and what not to do, and how to actually avoid such biases or minimize it. We can't always totally leave them out, but we can minimize them. Yes.
Awesome, awesome, and great. Thank you very much. Cletus is saying, okay, behavioral interview is said to be the best bet for getting a top-notch employee. What's your take on that?
Yeah, absolutely. If your organization has the opportunity to do behavioral, awesome, is the best. You should use that. You should use that. Yes.
Yes, it helps you minimize the biases and the perceptions that he
Exactly.
talks about.
And
And
get the
it's just
right fit of a behavior and attitude, skills and knowledge and all of that. Yes, ma'am.
so maybe we'll dedicate an episode on behavioral interview. Hey, well, I'm promising a lot of things. Don't worry, we'll get there. Jemima also is saying it's important to onboard the employee not only to the area of work. A new hire must build business acumen of the organization, of course. By so doing, he or she knows that his or her input affects productivity. And I
Absolutely.
think it's very, very true. Jemima, thank you for that. Sadie says, I joined late, but I've enjoyed every bit of it. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Vera, we will take your final words, and then we'll call it a day. But next week, we'll come again with an interesting topic. But like I've promised, we'll have an episode for onboarding, we'll have an episode for behavioral interview, we'll have an episode for what interview, all right, and then for what recruitment. What did I say? Recruitment. We've done that.
Behavioral
Behavioral
onboarding.
interview, onboarding. Yes, onboarding, and then job profiling. Please, admin, take note for me, and then we'll look at the variety of your final words.
Right. Thank you, Patricia, again, and thank you for our wonderful audience. But particularly, I just want to encourage all HR practitioners to take the recruitment process very seriously. Let's commit a lot of tools and strategies to attracting the right talent, because it is we win with our talent in the marketplace. So if we get it wrong, then it means that we are doing something wrong, which will not impact on productivity. So those are my last words.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Let me share with you that Sedat HR Digest was brought to you by Sedat Consult with support from FA Impressions. And if you want to support this program and so, you are welcome. Let's have a conversation behind the scenes and let's talk about it. Cletus says, I've really enjoyed this session. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you, Cletus, for coming. Clark said, you are very welcome. I enjoyed it every bit. Praise be for success. Thank you, everyone. So let's remember that we need to spend time to make sure that we get the right fit, and don't rush it. That is why you have dedicated a lot of time. If you want to hire one role, don't just rush it. Don't say, I want somebody today. Today that you decide that you want somebody, you must get it today. It's really not. If you do that, you have the wrong person, and then you keep firing and hiring and firing and hiring. And that also affects the brand of your organization. You'll be known as somebody an organization who can't keep talent. And that's not good for you. So make sure that you get it right from the start. Because if you don't, eventually the organization is going to suffer the brand for it. Thank you. My name is Patricia Abna Kisi. I am the CEO of Sedat Consult Limited, and HR Digest is brought to you by Sedat Consult Limited with support from FA Impressions. Thank you, everyone. Looking forward to seeing you again next week. Do have a fabulous, fabulous, fabulous week ahead. All the best. Bye.